Arsenal 3 win over Club Brugge in the Champions League. 6 out of 6 straight wins. The first time we've achieved this in the history of the Champions League competition. A magnificent result and performance. A lot to get into, including the return of Gabriel Jesus. So let's unpack it all. This is the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal. Rav here, as always, your host. How is everyone this morning? I'm recording this just a few minutes after Arsenal have just achieved a 3-0 result over Club Brugge away in the Champions League. A nice sunny morning here in Melbourne, Australian time, recording outside. So if you hear a bit of background noise, my apologies. I'll try and clear that up as much as I can before publishing. But look, this was an excellent result for Arsenal. I would have taken a draw before this, because we've earned the right to do that. We've earned the right to rotate as much as we have. I'll get to selection. I'll get to the lineup in a moment, because even then there were a few surprises that I didn't quite anticipate. But even headed into this, we were 5 from 5, 15 points, sitting nicely on top of the Champions League table as well as the Premier League table. It's not often I can use the plural to say we're on top of both leagues. It's been a really productive time for Arsenal, despite the loss to Aston Villa just a few days ago, which I can understand has caused maybe a bit of a stir or a bit of a reaction in some circles online. I'm not as online as perhaps many of you others are, but I've certainly heard about it. I quite often hear it referenced, actually, the various kinds of meltdowns and reactions to Arsenal stumbling. And I don't think it's good necessarily. I don't think it's good for the soul. I don't think it's healthy necessarily, but I also don't think it's accurate. It's realistic. Arsenal are exceptionally well poised. Where we placed in both competitions, the injuries we've had to encounter, the matches we've ticked off, especially in the Premier League. I know this. I want to get back on topic in a moment and talk about this match in the Champions League. But just as a sidebar for a moment, the reaction to Aston Villa, that loss, it's a very tough place to go. And we've ticked off a number of tough away matches in our opening 15. The fixtures for Arsenal in the Premier League will ease up. They will open up. It's been an unrelenting time. Injuries at the wrong time to the wrong people. Yet still, we are still so well placed. So let's not just pack it all in. Let's keep composure, keep our mindset going, right? Because there's a much bigger picture happening, and we continue to progress towards that. So onto this match, as I said, I would have been quite content with a draw, because we've earned the right to do that. The way Champions League format usually works is that if you can win your home matches, which we're doing, by the way, and grind out results, take a point away from your away teams, you're going to be towards the top of the table come the end of this group stage, league stage, whatever they call it now. And as it turns out, we're doing both. We're winning home and we're winning away. That win against Bayern Munich a couple of weeks ago, that's really propelled us into a place of even greater strength right now. At the time, I would have taken a draw then as well. I really would have. And even heading into this match, 5 from 5, 15 points. If we ended up with 16, it's totally fine. It's completely fine from an Arsenal point of view, because we're still going to progress. I believe, statistically speaking, I believe that we can finish top now, even with a loss and a draw in our remaining 2 group stage matches, which will come in January. That's amazing. That's an amazing achievement by this squad that has really been stretched thin by just a host of injuries in clusters across the squad. So exceptional result. And just credit to Arsenal, credit to the mentality, credit to Arteta, because no matter what the situation is, that's been thrown at us, we still find a way, which brings me into to this match. So Timber, I believe, did travel, but I saw the pre-match quotes from Arteta that he took a heavy knock. So did Calafiori. So if you were to ask me in terms of a predicted lineup, I would have got it way wrong anyway. But heading into this match, I thought that Calafiori would start at left centre-back, perhaps a good opportunity to sit down Hincapié, Lewis Skelly at left back. And I imagined that we would have seen a pairing again of Calafiori with Timber as centre halves and White at right back, and maybe Kepa in goal, actually. As it turned out, he went with Raya. And look, Raya was called into action a number of times today, which maybe Arteta predicted that it's going to be a busy night for the goalkeeper with the amount of the disjointed nature of the lineup of the players in front of him. So maybe that's why he leant towards his number one keeper in Raya. And I thought Raya was excellent at this match. He really was. He's just an assured figure. He catches everything, clean saves, anticipates where the ball is going to go, distribution sound. He's absolute top tier quality, David Raya is. So getting back to the lineup, Norgard, I anticipated Norgard starting. I think many of us would have got that right in terms of predicting a starting lineup. I didn't think he'd play at centre back though. That was a surprise. And as it turned out, it sounds like he's had a bit of experience playing as a centre half before for Brentford, which I wasn't really too aware of prior to this match. So Norgard at centre half. Now, what that meant was, with Rice's absence, I don't even believe he travelled. I think he's remained in London with an illness. So that's great. Maybe that's just Arteta's way of saying, look, we're going to sit him down for this one. We're going to rest him, but without actually saying we're resting him. So it meant that we saw midfield starts for Merino and Zubimendi. Merino looked exhausted, I've got to say. He looked so tired. Especially there was one sprint where he was charging towards a Brugge player. Was it their right winger, who had an excellent match, by the way, the first half in particular. Forbes, I believe. I don't know too much about Brugge, I've got to be honest, but I thought their right side worked really well. Their right back, Stankovic, and their right winger, Forbes, they really worked in tandem well together and caused a lot of problems in that first half. And they faded as the match went on, and Arsenal really, I guess, put the foot on the throat, and the match got away from them. So they faded. But Marino was sprinting back, and I could see the look on his face, and I worried. I got to be honest, I worried that because I've seen that look on faces before of a number of players just before they get injured. And absolute credit to Marino, he's been exceptional this last 6 weeks now or so. He's played a lot of football. He starts all the time as well for Spain. So does Zubimendi. They're playing a lot of football. So if we had one extra defender this match, perhaps it would have meant that Norgard could have started in midfield, and we would have needed both of them to start. Perhaps they could have shared a spot, perhaps could have sat one of them down. Maybe it was asking a bit too much for Waneri and, say, Eza to start in midfield, and you just play with one of Merino or Zubimendi. You can understand Arteta's thinking as much from the outside as we say, oh, it's okay, just rotate heavily, make 11 changes, play the kids. Arteta never really does that. It's a Champions League match. Like, there's still so much on the line, and I think more so than anything, he wants momentum after losing unexpectedly. The final kick of the match against Aston Villa, I think he wanted cohesion more than anything else, and just getting back to winning ways, getting his senior players back on the pitch. We don't have our usual senior leaders, the pillars, such as Gabriel, Saliba, right? So there's only so many senior players he's going to sit down at the time. He sat down Bukayo Saka from this one too, so that's another key thing to do. But I think in the middle of the pitch, he went to his senior figures. Pardon me, Rice's absence meant that Odegaard needed to start, Zubimendi and Merino. So look, it is what it is in that respect. On the flanks though, we saw some nice rotation. And boy, did they both have excellent games. Martinelli and Madueke, it was their time. It was their show. What an amazing opening goal, by the way, from Noni Madueke. He's, I think, heading into this match, maybe some of the narrative around Madueke is that there's a hell of a player in there. I think we all know that. What's been lacking so far in his early matches for Arsenal is that real end product, whether it's the final shot on goal or the final cross, even his corners, when he takes corners in place of Saka. Right, they haven't quite been up to the usual quality that the standard that we're otherwise accustomed to at Arsenal. But boy, out of nowhere, that was an unbelievable shot from where he took that ball. He's just had one eye on the goal. Like he was a man on a mission. Took the ball and he attacks straight away, and it was a hell of a shot, rifled into the top corner. I don't think you can save that one. I think it's going to take a few goalkeepers in there, and they still would struggle. It was an incredible shot. Like I was amazed. My reaction was just like, holy crap, where did that come from? That's amazing. And if he's got that in his locker, more of this, please. So that happened at around the 25-minute mark, I believe. I believe so. It was a quite a strange opening 6 to 8 minutes. It was quite a stop-start nature to the game, end-to-end stuff. It was almost as if both teams were playing in a bit of slow motion at times. But then it just became more and more back and forth. A real tennis match style, basketball match style reference I hear said a lot, and I think that speaks to the lack of Saliba and Gabriel and Rice in this one means that Arsenal are being forced into phases of play that we're not otherwise accustomed to seeing. We don't really do that. We don't really get drawn into those types of matches where it's end-to-end stuff, a bit more chaotic, less control, spilling over the balls and losing possession. That's not really the type of thing. Well, certainly Arteta's not. He's not thrilled with that type of thing. But if you look at the number of changes that we've made, and I've said this many, many times before, there's only so much you can plan for on the training pitch, right? With different players, with different combinations happening, there's only so much that you can do, right? When you're in a match simulation, that's where the real relationships are forged. That's where you can't manufacture that otherwise. Only in matches do you develop that experience and those relationships with each other. And I've lost count now of how many different back four combinations have we had this season so far. And it's still relatively early in the season. We've only just ticked into the December matches this period of time. Like, how many different changes have we had, but yet still somehow Arsenal find a way? And as much as it bothers me when I look at the stats and I see how many shots on goal the opposition have had, how many shots on target. Do you remember that little phase about 6 weeks ago where Arsenal went, I think, 8, 9, 10 straight consecutive wins, and many of them, if not all of them, were without conceding a shot on target? Do you remember those glorious times? That was because we had consistency and stability. You've got our best players there. You've got Saliba and Gabriel and Rice. As we had our spine going, they were running the show. They were dictating matches. Timber at right back, Calafiora at left back. We can all name that back five without even trying too hard. You take them out, and it doesn't mean Arsenal are rubbish or we're useless. It's none of that. We have an excellent squad. We have players like with the mentality to come in and do what they need to do for the team. But naturally speaking, there's going to be a drop-off, and this is where we have to just be a bit more gracious and understanding as Arsenal fans that it's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be. We can still concede shots on target. We can still have those a few loose moments that we otherwise don't like seeing, but we still won. We won 3-0 with a heavily rotated lineup with our quote-unquote backup wingers, so to speak, with no disrespect to Madueke and Martinelli. We still won with a clean sheet, with another new back four named. And when was the last time Madueke, Martinelli, and Gyökeres started a match together? I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, please. I think it was in September, right? When Saka was out, and obviously we lost Havertz in that early period too. So Gyökeres was starting every match. Eze was integrating, so it was mostly Martinelli on the left. I mean, it's this stuff. There's a stop-start nature to Arsenal. Yet somehow, some way, we are still finding ways to get this done. It's an incredible time to be an Arsenal fan, and we just got to keep supporting them on this journey because there's so long to go. There's a hell of a long way to go, actually, if we're going to achieve what we all hope we're trying to achieve this season. So whilst Madueke will understandably get all the plaudits from this match, Martinelli too for a fantastic goal. The reverse angle on that was beautiful. The way that ball curved in and it found the side netting. It was just a fantastic goal. It was just really beautiful to see. 3 open play goals, by the way, just quietly continuing to amass those open play goals. I thought we only scored from set pieces, by the way. Interesting if that chorus is still doing the rounds, the way people take pot shots at Arsenal for almost everything we do. Everything we seem to do seems to draw some kind of reaction. But yeah, as much as Madueke will get a lot of the plaudits, I really think we should also pay homage to Merino and Zubimendi's performance in midfield. Just utmost professionals, the both of them. Zubimendi, I didn't think he had that in his locker as well, by the way. He drove very early in the second half, drove into the box on the left, on his left foot. Now, if you ever want to describe a cross about putting something on a platter, right, I think it's that. The way Zubimendi has crossed that ball, and all Noni really needs to do is make any meaningful contact on it, and it's a goal. That's essentially a tap-in. That if there's a headed version of a tap-in, it's that one. But again, the way that the two of them are worked in tandem with each other, Zubimendi took one quick look up and he knows, go to the back post. And Madueke, with his instincts, he's there and he's tapped it home. So it was, and that was 2-0, and that was just what we needed, because I think that last 6 to 7 minutes before halftime, I think we just wanted to get there, just get to halftime without conceding, because I think Brugge had an excellent period. You saw the crowd was up for it. I've already mentioned Forbes. I think he was having he was causing a few problems for Lewis Skelly one-on-one. He had found himself in a bit of space as well. According to action a couple of times, I think there was one shot in particular right in the box where I think Brugge will be disappointed not to score. They struck it straight at Raya, essentially. He still has to save it, of course, and Raya does. However, they would have been disappointed not to have scored. Second half, though, and this is a bit of a pattern with Arsenal. We get to the second half and we just put our foot to the floor. We did it against Spurs as well. The way we start, we come out of the blocks and we snuff out whatever hopes of victory the opposition have. We get that all-important second goal, and it changes the entire dynamics. It changes the entire match. And when we got the third, I think it was around, was it 65 or 66 or 67 minutes around then? Oh, I don't want to do that whole 6-7 meme, sorry. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. But once Martinelli scored, then you could just see this, that we'd completely taken the sting out of the match. You saw, even the images of the Brugge coach, new manager bounce, by the way, that probably speaks to a lot of the energy they had. They sacked their manager a few days ago, and this was his debut. And you can just saw the crowd reactions too. I think the end result from there was inevitable. What it allowed Arteta to do was to make some changes, including late on the sub for Ben White, who I'm glad came off, because he too has had a lot of minutes. And if we hadn't had the volume of defensive injuries that we had, maybe he could have come off earlier, or he and Timber could have time shared right back. For example, that's just one scenario that we didn't have the benefit of, unfortunately. But White has done really well. He's been on the outs for so long, recovering from injury. And he's made 3 consecutive starts. Sneakily, his minutes, his load, it can just sneak up on you. We don't want him getting injured again because, we've just got too many injuries already in defence. But Marley Salmon's 16 years old, Champions League debut. I believe it's his actual full Arsenal debut too. Please correct me if I'm wrong there. But that's incredible. 16 years old. Just how fantastic. And unfortunately for Max Dowman, he probably would have featured too in this match. I read yesterday he suffered what seems to be a nasty ankle injury. It's maddening how many injuries Arsenal are suffering. It's really unfortunate. It sucks for Dowman. I think it's a serious one. Potentially 2 months, I believe David Ornstein said, and really unfortunate. Just I think it happened in a challenge as well. I read it really sucks. But then it's such is the nature of Arsenal this season. We get players back or on the fringes of returning. We lose a number of players at the other end of the scale. So Dowman's injury meant that we could add Jesus to the Champions League squad to register him for this match and for the remaining group matches as well. And Jesus came on in the second half, and it was great to see, by the way, absolutely great to see. He's got a sharpness about him that he just does Jesus things, the twisting, the turning. He's a very unpredictable footballer. Which way is he going to go? He occupies different spaces too, and that speaks to the versatility of Jesus, because coming into Arsenal, I know he was coming in to be the centre forward a few seasons ago, but he's had an excellent history on either flank as well. He can play left or he can play right. So Jesus is very comfortable drifting across the different spaces, dragging defenders out, not knowing where he's going to go, where he's going to drift to next. And it's really excellent to see. Understandably, we've probably forgotten about Jesus, and he hasn't really been factored in that much this season because of an ACL injury, ruling himself out for basically 12 months. He's been out of sight, out of mind, but every now and then you get a glimpse of Jesus, and you're just reminded of how good he was in those opening few months before that World Cup injury. He completely transformed Arsenal. He elevated, he and Zinchenko, with all credit to Zinchenko as well, they elevated the mentality of Arsenal at the time. And I think they command such respect and admiration from Arteta and their teammates for what they did at that time for the club. And whether he can get back to those heights or not, I don't know. It remains to be seen. Injury has prevented that, sadly, for him since. But to have him in the squad and to have him as an option, it's a hell of a thing for Arsenal to have up our sleeve in the next few months. I'm just hoping he can stay fit because he deserves it. He deserves just a good run of good luck, of good fortune, And let's see what he can do, because this is a man who just clearly wants to play football, and he's got such a passion and a drive for it, and the hunger is there. So there's an opportunity for him. Let's see, because we don't know what Kai Havertz is, what he's going to be like when he returns from again, 2 serious long-term injuries. And players take time to reintegrate and come back in, so the minutes are there. It's probably a good time as well to talk about Gyökeres without going in too much on individuals. Gyökeres, again, just seems to drift he just drifts out in and out of matches. There are times when he's not, look, we all knew this anyway, right? He's not a high touch, heavily involved player. I think we all know that anyway, that he's an end product guy, that he needs to be served, that we need to see and anticipate his runs and play the ball into him. I think we all know that and acknowledge that's the type of profile Victor Gyökeres is. However, just it's another match where in his 60, 65 minutes that he's played, that I don't know I don't know how many touches he's had, but without looking at the stats, just based on what I saw in the match, I think Jesus in his cameo, in his second half substitute appearance, I think he's been more involved than Victor Gyökeres and probably had more shots on target too. So how that reflects on Gyökeres, I'm not quite sure. It's just it's one of those things where Gyökeres needs time to get back up to speed again. His fitness, his engine is not quite up to speed just yet. We saw that against Villa with the way Declan Rice laid that ball on a platter into the box, and you want your centre forward attacking that. That's another potential tap in right there. So it's a conversation that we don't really need to get too much into right now, because with the benefit of winning matches, you can kind of just compartmentalize and gloss over a few things and just and defer to a later time. So maybe that's one of them. But the Victor Gyökeres starting centre forward conversation, look, it's up for grabs. If Jesus can get himself fit and firing, maybe there's a starting berth there against Wolves on the weekend. I don't know. Will that come too soon? The match Sunday morning, Melbourne time, for Jesus to start? I don't know, but it's a conversation to be had, because the minutes are there and the opportunities are there. So it's a matter of which players are going to grab that and take the opportunities. Jesus is now back in the picture. So that's the best part. He's now back. And he's a genuine option for any of those front positions. In the absence of Trossard, Gyökeres, coming back into the picture, Havertz still on the longer term injury list, Dowman as well now injured. There's a burden to be shared. There's a load to be shared there. We can't rely upon every minute for Martinelli, for Gyökeres, for Saka, for Madueke. We're going to need to deploy different options in different game states. And this is why we built this squad, because we want to go for it. We want to go for everything. And with Jesus back, I feel a hell of a lot better. So just some closing thoughts now. At around the 75th minute or 77 minutes around then, I just wanted the game to end. It was just kind of drifting, like I said before. The result was inevitable. 3-0. Everyone knew Arsenal was going to see this one through. I didn't want any injuries. That was my main thing. As much as I love watching Arsenal and I love watching Arsenal live, I wanted the match to end because I didn't want anyone to get injured. I just wanted it to be done. And thankfully, we got through the remaining period of time, 4 minutes of added time. Didn't concede a goal, got the clean sheet, no injuries, debut for Marley Salmon. We've used all 5 substitutions here. Would have been great to find a way to give Marino or Zubimendi a breather towards the end. But look, it is what it is. Maybe we're looking ahead to next week, because we've got Wolves on the weekend that, with all due respect to them, we must be winning that match. You just have to. You have to get back to winning ways in the Premier League. Good time to play the bottom team as well. And Arsenal have come a long, long way now from a few seasons ago when we inexplicably dropped points in the title run into Southampton at the time. That match where Walcott scored, and unfortunately there was a mistake by Ramsdale in the opening that made it very difficult for us from there. But Arsenal just have to win that, and we've got the capability, the caliber of squad to do it and still manage the minutes of certain players. We have to go out and win, and then we've got a breather. We've got 7 days, which is so priceless now. It's invaluable in this hectic festive time of year. These fixtures come in left, right and centre. We've got 7 days until Everton, away to Everton next weekend. So maybe we're looking ahead to that, and like one big push from these players, get the result against Wolves. We've got the result here tonight. Come back, refresh, rejuvenate, recharge, defeat Wolves, 3 points, and then we've got a week off before we go and try and get the job done against Everton. So If that's where we're placed, we've earned the right to do so. And I can understand the rationale in using the players that we have on the pitch. And look, the players want to play. As much as I look at it and I panic and I worry about people's minutes and whatnot, they want to play. They're all in this. They want to win every match, play every minute, and do what they can for the team. So on that note, job done for Arsenal. Clean sheet, 3-0, 6 out of 6 wins. One thing I forgot to mention is that that's 5 straight goals for Gabriel Martinelli in the Champions League. To the best of my knowledge, the first time an Arsenal player has achieved that. There's history being written in front of us as it's going on, and I'm absolutely here for it. A fantastic night for Arsenal. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you to all the new followers and the new comments and activity I'm receiving lately. I greatly appreciate it. If you listen on audio platforms, please follow the show, leave me a 5-star review. I'm going to try and get a post-match recording out soon after the final whistle against Wolves in a few days' time, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one, please. Thank you so much. Enjoy the victory. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care of yourselves and check in with your loved ones. Come on, Arsenal.